Let's talk presentations, shall we? Okay, this is something that's going to be there in every business. It's pointless us doing analytics or building pretty pictures and pretty charts if we can't then present them to the board. Fundamentally, that's the point, isn't it? At some point, everything has to go back to the board and be presented. So what's the best way to do that? And how does that work with something like Power BI? Hi, my name's Ross, the creator and founder of Geordie Consulting and Geordie Intelligence, the YouTube channel you're watching right now. What we're going to talk about today is PowerPoint, and in particular how PowerPoint and Power BI interact. The point of this is that no matter what we do with our analytics platform, at some point insights have to be surfaced to the board, and the board are going to want PowerPoint. There's a multitude of reasons why they still use PowerPoint. I'm not going to get into them. I'm not going to really criticize them. I don't think there's any value in trying to do that. Like the Excel argument that people push forward with Power BI, PowerPoint as well is the same. We need to integrate PowerPoint, we need to leverage PowerPoint, and we need to make sure we use it effectively. So let's have a look at what we can do and see what we think. So here we are, okay, over in our SharePoint site, our business SLT SharePoint site. Of course, where you'd be, isn't it? And we can see we've got our October 2025 main PPTX, yeah, PowerPoint file. So we can click on that and we can have a look and say, oh, brilliant. Okay, and it's integrated, we can view it online, brilliant. So it's going to go away, it's going to think about it. Okay, so as expected, it's come back and said, I don't have access to this. I need to request access. Now, this is something you need to be really well aware of within PowerPoint and within when you integrate PowerPoint into your Power BI estate. And I'm sure there's a lot of businesses that do this and come up to this and go, well, we can't use it. It's pointless, right? The reality of this is I built this using the report as opposed to the app, which is being shared with me and that I have access to. So in practice, if you're going to build PowerPoint content from your Power BI apps for your Power BI app audiences, you have to use the app content. You cannot use the workspace content because Power BI actually differentiates between the two. So this was built from the workspace content, which is what I would expect. I'm a developer. I've gone through, here's where we're going to build. We're going to build the PowerPoint from here. Bish, bash, bosh, job's done. No, your audience will not be able to access it. Okay, this is where we go, right? So this was built from the app. So you can see from the app, I've got access. You can see the two don't work. They are the same page, I assure you. I was trying to think the best way to demo this, and there's not a really good way. This is a live report. That's actually a snapshot saying. So this is a snapshot, which is what we want. Okay, this is what we would distribute, the snapshot, right? And we can see I have the ability to look at the live data or the snapshot. There is an option in here. Let's see if we can zoom in. Here we go. You can see there's a public snapshot. Okay. Now the public snapshot just shares it as a JPEG. Okay. So it puts whatever the Power BI content is just as an image on the page. You can still drop around and move between it. But the main thing is what you saw is there was an authentication process that went on, okay? And that authentication process is the huge benefit that you get. So if we're here, you can see I don't have access to it. Now this is a snapshot from the workspace content. I don't have access. I could request access and it would then go through the approval process. If I was approved, I would then be able to see whatever the content is of this app or of that page. Here, we've got it. So this is BK saying, right, we're going to go into our board meeting. We've got our core numbers for the month, for example, or we could take the one we built last week and put that into a PowerPoint. So from here, I can say, right, we're looking at this. These are our numbers that we've got. And if you imagine this was a monthly report pack, just looking at last month's numbers, we could say, oh, that number looks strange. So let's say, oh, what's happened with, say, South Tyneside in September? So we would know, for example, that South Tyneside in September, they've lost at least 1 week due to the Great North Run. So their numbers would be down, for example. So we can turn around and we can say, actually, move out of the snapshot and drop into live. And it goes away and gets the latest version of all the report pages. And this is a big benefit that you get from Power BI. Because if, for example, you turn around and you're presenting up your top level KPI numbers, your core numbers, which is really what you do in the board pack mostly, and someone then says, what does that number mean? Your options without Power BI are to say, right, we'll go away, we'll come back, or we'll get back to you after the meeting. With Power BI, potentially we can suddenly do this. We can say, oh, well, South Tyneside, potentially in 2025 as well. So let's go and zoom through to South Tyneside. It's going to give us the 2025 summary. We can see where they are. We can zoom through. We can then see that if we went back through to about here, 31st of August, 30th of August, then 13th. So they missed 1 week with Great North Run, and then there was a bit of a surge in numbers. So we've got something that we can talk about and we can explain straight away in the board meeting. We haven't had to take something offline. Now, it might be that we go, oh, well, that one that took place, give us some more information about it. Again, we can zoom further in. But it might be a case of then we're getting to the point of saying, well, we do need to take something offline. But we've been able to answer a big chunk of those initial questions and those back and forth queries immediately and simply by just dropping out from our snapshot data that we were sharing and into our live data. And you can see, because I'm just an app user, I can't switch between the two. So for you as the board presenter, as the report author, we would say, you build these, you need to be in the workspace, have that access. You choose from a business perspective, are we going to use snapshot, or is it something that people need to be able to view offline, which is where the public snapshot potential, it's a bit misleading, but it is important to understand that if you've got executives, say, who need to be able to use it while they're flying or on like train services or something like that, potentially public snapshot is the way you would want to go. In terms of your security risk, don't forget, okay, you currently send out your PowerPoints to people anyway. They're not encrypted. There's nothing else going on with that. So you're not increasing it. The decision to switch to public, though, means that you want to think about making sure you've just got your top level numbers being surfaced. You don't want to have all the detail reports there. Those top level numbers, but you don't need to, because, as I say, you can switch into the live. So for example, for our version here, we've got 1 page. That might be all we want, okay? Because everything's there. Everything is presented in that 1 page. Now, in my real world of saying, well, I'm going to produce PowerPoints based on everything, I would probably have to go and produce a detail page for each local authority, for example. I don't need to do that, because if it becomes necessary to see it, we can drill through. The people who we distribute the board pack to, they can easily access this as well. And again, this is effectively now the app within PowerPoint. So someone is now accessing my Power BI content as an app within PowerPoint without having to know even there's a URL you need to go to get it. So if this was our monthly content pack, our monthly report pack, this is what they could do. If this was our monthly report pack as well, of course, we could actually then use that consistently and never have to update it, because each month it would be up to date, which again is one of those issues. So your offline copy that you're going to save, potentially, because you'd want to save something, you would need to presumably save it as a PDF document. So we've got, this is our version of record, or our saved version from what October 2025 looked like. Those are things to think about, but we've not had to really plan or embed everything. And we have the capability of switching in to see what's happened in our organization at any given time. So how do we go about building content for this? Let's go back to here. Well, we are here, aren't we? Let's go to PowerPoint, because this was all, of course, in PowerPoint online. PowerBI.com. Okay, and let's look at the report that we built last week. Okay, so we've got this one. It's in my workspace. Okay, and we can see, here we go. This is excellent. We can see this report does everything. And we've got Newcastle, and we've got North Tyneside, and we've got our data dictionary in here as well. Okay, so what I can do is I can say, well, let's export this to PowerPoint, export the report to PowerPoint, embed with live data. You can see we will also export as this. Okay, and I'm going to go open in PowerPoint. And it'll say, do you want to do it? I say, yes, I want to open this in PowerPoint. And it will open PowerPoint. And we can see. Okay, it will bring through one page. And it tells you, oh, you've done all this. This is great. This is how you do it in future. Okay. And all I'm going to do is just remove the silly stuff that it puts around it, which I really wish Microsoft wouldn't do, because I've just chosen to export something. I'm going to make it full screen. And again, if you're doing this, this is where we start thinking through things. We can see we've got the options here. So this potentially is all we need. We can go through and say, well, we were talking about South Tyneside just now, weren't we? So let's look at South Tyneside. So there's South Tyneside's view. Okay. And we've got that profiling going on there. We can choose to look at North Tyneside, and there's North Tyneside. It is immediate, it is quick, and it works. That's the main thing with this. This is available then in our report pack. We could choose to say, well, we're going to duplicate this slide. Okay. So this one, we're going to say this is Newcastle. I'm going to switch this to snapshot. You can see I can choose public snapshot, again, because I'm the owner of the data. Let's choose public snapshot. Okay. You can see I can still switch back to live. I can't go to a normal snapshot. Here, we've got this. This is saying North Tyneside now. So we can choose to say, well, we want this to say be Gateshead. Okay. And Gateshead wasn't on because, of course, we're still on Storm Amy. Let's go to County Durham. Okay. See, there's a lot off County Durham. And here we can then say, right, we're going to make this public snapshot. Okay, so we've built something easy. Okay, there was very little work we had to put in here. I could now share this. Right? If I chose to share this with snapshot or live data, people would have to have access to that workspace, to my workspace. I'd have to have shared the report with them, or they would get that box that comes up saying request access. It's not the worst thing in the world, having people requesting access to your content. If you think if you're sending out a mission critical report and that your manager is asked and you say, well, we're going to make them request access. That might be something your manager wants. Make them request access. Who's requested access? Who's actually looking at the content that we're producing? Big question. So quick, easy, pieced this together, didn't we? Did not take much. So PowerPoint is that core line of business presentation tool that many companies are still using. I don't think PowerPoint is going to go away anytime soon, just like we don't think that Excel is going to go away anytime soon. The reality of being able to integrate PowerPoint into your Power BI architectural planning is huge though. Okay, snapshots alone are a massive business benefit. If you think board packs that go out, okay, how often or how many times have companies been compromised by a board pack being sent to the wrong place or being leaked to in the wrong place? If you have snapshots enabled, that makes a difference. In this example, we looked at exporting whole pages. Okay. In practice, you can actually also export just visuals. So in the visual header, you can choose to export that to PowerPoint. You can go from PowerPoint and choose to pull content in because you can put URLs in, you can put links in. It asks you for information from the browser for it. So there's lots more ways of integrating in your PowerPoint content, sorry, your Power BI content into PowerPoint. Too many powers. And that will then change the way that you interact with the business. Because if we can do that, our snapshots just have to be of the top level, because the drill through and the drilling function will be taken care within Power BI, should it become necessary. And the thing to remember is because we're using snapshots, it means that we know everyone who's viewing the content is authorized to view the content. Everyone who's viewing the content who then says, oh, can you give me the detail for, well, they've got the ability to do it. It's straight there within the PowerPoint. We can do a session talking about, well, this is how you do it. I've built content here. You've watched me build that little report pack. Now shared it with people. They can then request access to it easily enough. I don't have to know this person. I get the requests will come in and I can add them and I can then review in my content who's got access to it. If it gets to the point where it becomes important, I can go through the whatever front door process we've got with IT or with our data team to get that published and added to the app so it's available to all the app users. I could choose to share that with all the app users. It's not difficult. We know it's Business SLT as a group. I can choose to share it with Business SLT and then there it goes. In practice, I wouldn't recommend doing that because again, sharing content from my workspace is a big no from a Power BI management long-term process. Okay, but it's quick, it's easy. There's very little headache that goes into it from my perspective because we can use PowerPoint natively with our O365 subscriptions. We can link PowerPoint and Power BI together simply, and you can see we could access it both from PowerPoint in the web and from PowerPoint application on my laptop. Yeah, excellent. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you do, so I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to leave a comment down below telling us what it is you like, what things you want to see us do in the future on the channel, because we're going to carry on doing this much more with around the business. But as we're getting more and more technical with the business, we're going to start bringing in areas which will be of use to the IT side or to the data team as well, in terms of, well, this is actually why we do it that way, because it benefits the business. Because fundamentally, if we're not supporting the business, we aren't doing our jobs right. Okay. For now though, stay safe, take care. Ta-da.